For more than 3 decades, Jennifer Aniston has been more than a Hollywood star. She became a living emblem of beauty, grace, and resilience, etched permanently into pop culture through her legendary role as Rachel Green in Friends. To the world, she was America's sweetheart, a woman whose radiant smile lit up millions of living rooms. Yet behind that glow was a story woven with heartbreak. Every graceful step was often taken on the fragile ground of private sorrow. Behind the glittering red carpets and the endless magazine covers was a woman, carrying wounds that time could never fully heal. A fractured childhood, love stories that fell apart under the harsh glare of the public eye, and a silent, soul-tearing struggle to become a mother, ending in disappointment. Now, even at 55, life's storms continue to follow her, clinging like shadows that threaten the peace she has worked so hard to build. Jennifer Joanna Aniston was born on February 11, 1969 in Sherman Oaks, Los Angeles, to a family steeped in Hollywood tradition. Her father, John Aniston, a Greek-born actor with commanding presence, and her mother, Nancy Dow, an actress of mixed Italian, English, Irish, Scottish, and Greek heritage, gave Jennifer a world rooted in art and performance. Her childhood was also colored by family ties. 2 half-brothers, John Mellick from her mother's first marriage and Alex Aniston from her father's later relationship, plus a godfather, the legendary Telly Savalas. From the outside, it seemed like a charmed beginning, but fame, she would later reflect, was always around me, but it never filled me. When she was just a toddler, her father's career took the family across the country to New York City. The skyscrapers dazzled her young eyes, but the light outside could not erase the growing darkness inside her home. By the age of 9, her parents' marriage had collapsed. Her father left, not just for work, but out of her daily life for a long stretch of time. Jennifer would later describe it as not just an absence, but a silence that echoed painfully. That silence taught her too soon that love could disappear without warning. At home, another battle was quietly unfolding. Her mother, celebrated for her striking looks, often held Jennifer to strict standards of appearance. Comments on her weight, posture, or hair were constant, perhaps meant as guidance. To Jennifer, they felt like tiny daggers. Each word planted seeds of self-doubt that would take decades to unearth. Life wasn't cushioned by wealth, either. Money was often scarce, and emotional warmth even scarcer. Jennifer learned early to use humor as both a shield and a gift. If they were laughing, she once said, maybe they wouldn't notice the cracks. The deepest wound came later, when Jennifer was already stepping into the public eye. In 1996, her mother appeared on a talk show, airing private details about her daughter's life. The betrayal cut deeper when Nancy published a memoir, From Mother and Daughter to Friends, sharing her perspective with the world. For Jennifer, it was a devastating violation. She and her mother would not speak for 15 years. Some things take a long time to heal if they ever do, Jennifer later admitted. These storms, her father's sudden absence, her mother's unyielding criticism, the rupture of trust, shaped Jennifer into a woman both guarded and fiercely self-reliant. They carved empathy into her, gave her resilience, and forced her to find strength in solitude. Behind the radiant smiles on magazine covers still lived the little girl who learned to survive in silence, a girl who turned scars into steel, and who would one day build one of Hollywood's most enduring careers. In the quiet corners of her childhood refuge, scribbling in worn notebooks and drifting into daydreams, Jennifer discovered the first fragile spark of performance. For her, storytelling wasn't just play, it was sanctuary. By 1975, at just 6 years old, while most children were lost in playground laughter, she was already stepping into imaginary worlds where she could be anyone, anywhere. Her parents enrolled her at the Waldorf School, where creativity wasn't just tolerated, but celebrated. On that small stage of imagination, Jennifer tested her voice for the first time. She sensed, even then, that performing was more than an escape. It was a lifeline, a way to touch hearts she hadn't yet met. By 1983, at 14, she entered New York's prestigious LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts. It was here, under the guidance of renowned acting coach Anthony Abison, that she learned acting wasn't about pretending. It was about honesty, about letting the world see your soul. In crowded rehearsal rooms that smelled of paint and dust, Jennifer often felt both exhilarated and terrified. "I just wanted to belong somewhere," she recalled years later, her voice carrying both gratitude and the ache of teenage longing. Graduating in 1987 didn't open doors to instant stardom. It opened a grueling grind. In her late teens and early 20s, Jennifer survived on odd jobs, selling timeshares in dimly lit telemarketing offices, waiting tables for customers who barely looked up, peddling food deliveries on a rattling bicycle through Manhattan streets. Each shift bought her a sliver of time for another audition, another fragile hope. Her first brush with the screen came in 1988, a blink and you'll miss it role in Mac and Me. Commercials and small modeling gigs followed, but television proved unforgiving. Between 1990 and 1994, she appeared in shows like Malloy, Ferris Bueller, The Edge, Camp Cucamonga, and Muddling Through. Each role flickered briefly, only to be snuffed out before it could truly ignite her career. "I kept thinking maybe this isn't for me," she later confessed, her words weighted with memories of false starts. By 1994, at just 25, she was emotionally threadbare. The little girl who once found solace in make-believe now wondered if believing she could live inside stories was a mistake. And then fate intervened, disguised as something ordinary. One afternoon at a gas station in Los Angeles, she crossed paths with Warren Littlefield, then the president of NBC Entertainment. Their conversation was short but life-changing. "You have something? Don't quit," he told her. For Jennifer, those words felt like sunlight piercing through years of overcast skies. Soon after, she auditioned for a new NBC sitcom. Originally reading for the role of Monica, the producers instead saw in her something they couldn't ignore, an alchemy of humor, fragility, and warmth. And so, Rachel Green became hers, as if the role had been waiting for her all along. When Friends premiered in 1994, Jennifer could never have imagined the tidal wave it would unleash. With her quick wit, radiant smile, and moments of unguarded vulnerability, she didn't just play Rachel, she became her. Millions invited her into their living rooms, and soon she was no longer just an actress. She was part of a global phenomenon. For 10 years, Friends wasn't just a TV show. It was a cultural heartbeat pulsing in every corner of the world. The Ross and Rachel saga became television's most beloved love story, and Jennifer Aniston was crowned the face of romance, friendship, and hope for an entire generation. Yet behind the glittering laughter was a harsher truth. Fame, she realized, could be intoxicating one moment and suffocating the next. Every haircut became headline news, every outfit dissected, every smile analyzed. Her own life blurred with Rachel's until even Jennifer sometimes felt the weight of that character pressing against her skin. The trophies told part of the story: an Emmy, a Golden Globe, a Screen Actors Guild Award. By the final season, she became one of television's highest-paid stars, earning a record-breaking $1 million per episode. But behind those numbers was the quiet exhaustion of expectation. Be perfect, be funny, be Rachel. It was a gift, but also a gilded cage. Determined to break free, Jennifer sought roles that would challenge her image. In The Good Girl, 2002, she stripped away glamour to reveal raw vulnerability, stunning critics. A year later, Bruce Almighty, 2003, shattered box office records, proving she could command Hollywood's biggest arenas. Every role was not just work, it was a declaration, I am more than Rachel Green. By the early 2000s, Jennifer Aniston was standing at the very peak of fame. Fresh off the roaring success of Friends and a string of box office hits, she wasn't just a television darling anymore, she was a global icon. Her smile lit up billboards, her name sold movie tickets, and her every move made headlines. But in 1998, life surprised her with something far more intoxicating than fame: love. It began quietly, without flashing cameras or red carpets. Friends had set her up on what they called a blind date with none other than Brad Pitt, Hollywood's golden boy. He was a leading man whose blend of charm and smolder had captivated audiences worldwide. Jennifer, at the height of her own stardom, carried her own aura of magic. When the two collided, it felt less like a meeting and more like destiny. Jennifer would later recall how easy it felt that first night, two people talking, laughing, and connecting until the noise of the outside world melted away. Soon they became the couple everyone dreamed of. To the tabloids, they weren't just dating, they were Hollywood's golden pair, living proof that beauty, fame, and genuine love could coexist. By 1999, Brad proposed, and the media frenzy reached fever pitch. The world watched breathlessly as their fairy tale unfolded. On July 29, 2000, in Malibu, they wed in a ceremony as dazzling as the California sunset. 200 guests, thousands of candles, cascades of flowers, and fireworks exploding over the Pacific. Jennifer, in her beaded gown, walked toward Brad with a look of pure devotion. To fans, it was the wedding of the century. Their marriage was more than romantic. It was creative. Together, they founded Plan B Entertainment, a production company built on a shared belief that storytelling could change the world. For a while, life seemed perfectly balanced. Friends described Jennifer as lighter, freer, as though the guardedness from her childhood had finally melted away. In interviews, she called Brad her best friend, her partner, her anchor. For a time, it seemed she had found not just love, but home. But every fairy tale has its cracks. By the mid-2000s, distance began to creep in. Not the kind you measure in miles, but in missed moments. Their careers, once proof of ambition, became wedges. Film sets and press tours stretched into months apart. "We were like ships passing in the night," Jennifer would later reflect. Then came the rumors, whispers that Brad's chemistry with Angelina Jolie on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith had crossed into reality. Neither confirmed it, but in the world of celebrity gossip, silence was as loud as confession. By January 2005, Jennifer and Brad announced their separation. The news hit like an earthquake, shattering the dream of Hollywood's perfect couple. For Jennifer, it wasn't just heartbreak, it was heartbreak under a microscope. Paparazzi camped outside her home. Every trip to the grocery store, every coffee run was captured and dissected. She later admitted, "It was unbelievably painful, and I don't know if I'll ever get used to how public it was." Then came the cruelest rumor of all, that she hadn't wanted children, that her ambition had poisoned the marriage. For a woman already facing relentless scrutiny over her body and choices, the accusation cut like glass. "I do, and I will," she snapped in one interview, her voice breaking through the noise. But the damage was done. Nights became the hardest. Friends remember her returning to a quiet house where the silence pressed heavy against the walls. The bed felt too big. The coffee was brewed for one. She leaned on therapy, on yoga, on her closest circle of friends, and somehow, through tears and pain, she turned that heartbreak into art. On screen, her performances carried a rawness, as if her wounds were speaking directly to the audience. The tabloids feasted, but Jennifer survived. "You can't hold on to anger," she later said. "It eats you alive. You have to forgive, even if you can't forget." Those weren't the words of America's sweetheart anymore. They were the words of a woman who had walked through fire and emerged stronger. From the ruins of her most public heartbreak, Jennifer carried away something indestructible, the quiet, unshakable strength to begin again. The echoes of her divorce from Brad Pitt didn't fade quickly. If anything, they grew louder in the years that followed. Almost overnight, the fairy tale image of Brad and Jen was replaced by Brangelina. The tabloids couldn't resist comparing Jennifer's life with Brad and Angelina's growing family. Each new child, each radiant family photo became a cruel mirror reflecting Jennifer's empty arms. Her body became a battleground. Every soft fold of her stomach was scrutinized for signs of pregnancy. Every flowing dress sparked headlines. Is she finally expecting? The questions weren't just invasive, they were corrosive. They chipped away at her sense of privacy, at her right to be more than just a vessel for speculation. Jennifer once said with a tired honesty, "I was living my life, doing my work, and somehow I was reduced to whether or not I had a ring on my finger or a child in my belly." The heartbreak of losing her marriage was already a wound. This obsession with her motherhood, or supposed lack of it, was salt poured into it again and again. Still, she kept rebuilding herself, brick by emotional brick. On screen, she pushed her range further. The Breakup 2006 mined real pain for humor. Marley and Me 2008 made audiences weep while bringing in over $200 million at the box office. Horrible Bosses 2011 showcased her fearless comedic side, while We're the Millers 2013 gave her another hit. Yet some of her boldest work came in Cake 2014, where she stripped away all glamour, earning critical acclaim for a raw, unflinching portrayal of grief. Off-screen, Jennifer leaned into the practices that kept her grounded: therapy, yoga, and the steadfast presence of her closest friends. These weren't luxuries, they were lifelines. Slowly, she stitched herself back together in ways the public would never see. In 2008, love flickered again when she began dating musician John Mayer. He was younger, restless, and charismatic. Their romance was intoxicating at first, filled with laughter and late-night sparks. But just as quickly as it lit up, it dimmed. His world of tours and constant motion clashed with her desire for steadiness. When the relationship ended, Jennifer admitted, the sting of betrayal left her blindsided. Her home once again fell into a silence that felt unbearable. It would be 3 years before she opened her heart again, this time to actor and screenwriter Justin Theroux. They met in 2011 on the set of Wanderlust. Something about him, thoughtful, artistic, grounded, felt different. With him, Jennifer found not a fleeting spark, but a steady flame. In 2015, at 46, she married Justin in a quiet, intimate ceremony at their Bel Air estate. For a time, it felt like a long-awaited second chance at forever. Their home was filled with Sunday mornings over coffee, laughter that echoed through the halls, and companionship that seemed built to last. She called him her partner, her best friend. For once, love didn't feel like a gamble. It felt like an anchor, but even the steadiest ground can shift. By 2017, subtle changes grew into an unbridgeable distance. Work schedules, silences, and the slow erosion of intimacy unraveled what once felt unbreakable. Their separation was announced without scandal or betrayal. Only the quiet devastation of realizing love wasn't enough to keep their lives aligned. 3 great loves, 3 painful goodbyes. Each left a mark, shaping Jennifer into someone both scarred and resilient. Yet through it all, one absence remained the heaviest: the child she longed for, but never held. Behind closed doors, she fought a silent, grueling battle with infertility, fertility clinics, hormone injections, rounds of IVF. Her body bruised from needles, her spirit battered by disappointment. Each cycle began with fragile hope and ended in heartbreak. She also turned to Eastern medicine, acupuncture, and holistic remedies. Nothing worked. In candid interviews years later, she admitted she wished someone had told her to freeze her eggs earlier. The regret was real, but she refused to let it define her. In 2016, she wrote a powerful essay in the Huffington Post, reclaiming her narrative. We are complete with or without a mate, with or without a child. It wasn't a plea for sympathy, it was a declaration of sovereignty. When she revealed in 2022 that she had, in fact, endured years of IVF and heartbreak, there was no bitterness in her voice, only quiet acceptance. I have zero regrets, she said. Not because the journey had been easy, but because she had chosen to stop letting unmet expectations diminish the life she built. Jennifer Aniston may never have become a mother in the traditional sense, but she became something else, a survivor. The woman who turned heartbreak into art, who refused to be defined by gossip, who learned that fulfillment isn't measured by someone else's script. At 56, Jennifer Aniston stands as a woman transformed, not by the fairy tales that never came true, but by the life she chose to build from the pieces. Her present is not a consolation prize. It is a testament to resilience, self-mastery, and the quiet art of living well. She now splits her time between two sanctuaries: her beloved Bel Air mansion, purchased in 2011 for $21 million, is a fortress of glass and stone where she once married Justin Theroux and later learned to live alone again. Every corner carries memories, laughter, love, heartbreak, and yet today it is above all her place of peace. In 2021, she added a charming Montecito farmhouse to her world, purchased from Oprah Winfrey for $14 million. There, nestled among coastal breezes and quiet streets, she tends to her garden, cooks, rearranges furniture, and experiments with recipes. Friends say she's happiest when barefoot on the patio, sunlight on her face, dogs at her side. Her homes, past and present, trace the map of her journey. The glamorous Beverly Hills mansion she once shared with Brad Pitt, the Ohana house she redesigned and sold for a staggering profit after their divorce, a Malibu beach house, a Laurel Canyon retreat, New York condos. Each address a chapter in her story, each one ending before another began. Today, her truest companions are her beloved dogs, Chesterfield, Clyde, Sophie, and the cherished keepsake of her late Dolly, whose collar still rests in a special place. Despite decades in the spotlight, Jennifer has become fiercely protective of her private world. She hosts intimate dinners with her closest circle, Courtney Cox, Jason Bateman, and a handful of lifelong friends, instead of attending endless Hollywood parties. She retreats to Montecito when she needs quiet, walking her dogs along the coastline where no one cares about headlines. She has long since stopped correcting gossip about Brad, Angelina, or supposed reunions. I know my truth, she says, and that finally is enough. Physically, she remains luminous, not because she is chasing youth, but because she cares for herself with discipline and love. Yoga, strength training, clean eating, deep skin care, and rest keep her grounded. She no longer worries about whether her body will ever carry a child, yet she acknowledges the scars, emotional and physical, that no amount of wellness can erase. She has learned to live with them, not in spite of them. Professionally, she is as relevant as ever. Her starring role in the morning show has earned Emmy and Golden Globe nominations, proving she remains one of television's most bankable and respected stars. As an executive producer, she pours her lived resilience into stories of truth, power, and survival. Endorsement deals with L'Oreal, Smartwater, Emirates, and more add over $20 million annually to a net worth now estimated at $320 million. But Jennifer insists she isn't defined by numbers anymore. What matters is balance, authenticity, and peace. She continues to speak out against the policing of women's bodies and the cruelty of gossip culture. Her 2016 essay for the record remains one of the most powerful takedowns of tabloid narratives, and in 2022, she revealed with full candor her private IVF struggles. These moments are her legacy, just as much as Rachel Green or her film roles. The courage to tell the truth in a world that profits from lies. And so, Jennifer Aniston's life at 56 is not about what she never had, but about what she built: a circle of chosen family, a home filled with warmth and laughter, a career that still inspires, a voice that speaks for women told they are incomplete without marriage or children. She has loved and lost, dreamed and been denied, fallen and risen again. Her story reminds us that fairy tales are not always about weddings or babies. Sometimes the most powerful ending is the one where you save yourself. Jennifer Aniston has turned heartbreak into art, pressure into purpose, and solitude into strength. At 56, she is proof that even when the life you imagine slips away, the life you create can be just as beautiful. Sometimes more so, because it is entirely your own.